If there's one thing that has been very, very consistent during the administration of President William Samoei Ruto, then it has to be this issue of watu kutekwa nyara, Subaru boys, etc., etc. Disappearances of people, Kenyans, where there is clear evidence that state security is involved. Now, I've picked my words very carefully, because a lot of people like to say the police. But as you'll find out on my show today, saying the police is not really the whole truth. It is not really the whole story. Okay? This thing is very deep. And very important, it will definitely come back to haunt this government. Whether they know it or not, whether they believe it or not. Because there are very clear spiritual issues here, with very clear spiritual consequences that will definitely unfold. It can't be stopped. It is like trying to stop gravity, trying to defy gravity. Okay? You know, there's a real danger when a certain national issue comes to the forefront for people to ignore the details. You read a story about another abduction, you just ignore it. You read another story about a court order issued, you just ignore it, because it has become boring. And yet all these developments tell us something. And they tell us something which is more than alarming. But let us start with the remarks of President Ruto barely a week ago in that much publicized tour of Luo Nyanza. Okay? Dr. Ruto repeated these remarks about the government being against abductions. And he made it very clear that no Kenyan should be subjected to inhuman treatment simply because of their political persuasion. Hayo ni maneno mazuri sana, tamu sana. And now let me quote him with his exact words. Under my administration, I do not want a situation where Kenyans disappear. I need to repeat that. This is coming from Ruto's mouth. Under my administration, and by the way, this was last week, under my administration, I do not want a situation where Kenyans disappear. There were days when more than 20 people were being found in River Yala, having been executed. I want to promise you, let me repeat that. I want to promise you that this will not happen under my watch. He was talking at a town hall session in Kisumu when he made these remarks, which to date are just empty words. And I know you'll tell me, tumezoea. That is how Ruto talks. He talks a lot of things which are lies, a lot of things which will never happen. It's just talk, just words. They mean nothing. Which begs the question, why say those words in the first place? Nobody forced you to talk like that. Why not just keep quiet? Ignore a certain issue. Why talk about something that brings you out in very bad light? Because you're the leader of a country, and people know everywhere that what you say is not what you mean. Your words mean nothing. That is very dangerous for the leader of any country. Anyway, let us continue. Now, people have gone to court demanding that their loved ones be produced in court. And some of these people have gone to court with evidence that their loved ones were taken by security boys. And as a result, the judiciary has issued court orders for those who are responsible for security in the country called Kenya to appear before them and to explain the whereabouts of these people. Guess what has happened? There are several court orders which have been issued against the acting Inspector General of Police, Bwana Gilbert Masengeli. Yeah, actually, to be exact, he has ignored, snubbed 6 court orders. Not coming, not interested. And in one of the latest ones, when he was expected in court, guess where he was? Mombasa Raha. Mombasa Raha. Some of us call it Costa Rica. Apparently, he was attending a workshop, and the court was told that the Inspector General of Police was actually involved in some very serious security operations and could not be able to obey the court orders. And the Inspector General asked for more time to obey the same court orders. In another hilarious development, a Nairobi court refused to issue a warrant of arrest for Bwana David Mashiri Kimani. Now, if you've been following the news, you know that that is the Equity Bank manager whose credentials were used to withdraw 1.5 billion, or rather to transfer 1.5 billion Kenya shillings from an account in Equity, a case of fraud. His credentials were used. He was on leave. Yeah. Yani, the state was in court requesting for a warrant of arrest. And senior principal magistrate, Bwana Geoffrey Onsarigo, quite rightly refused to issue such an arrest warrant. Why? The magistrate said the obvious. How can the court issue an arrest warrant for somebody who has already been abducted by the state? What? My apologies for laughing, but this is crazy. I'm laughing because if I don't laugh, I will burst into tears. What? Hii Kenya yetu? Now, this latest drama raises very many questions. Is the state playing mischief, trying to pretend that they don't have Bwana David? Yeah, David Kimani, the Equity Bank manager. Or maybe they want to shift him very quickly from being abducted to being arrested. And therefore they want an arrest warrant to cement that, to solidify that. Who knows? It's a mystery. But meanwhile, these families of those people who have been abducted, can you imagine the kind of agony they're going through? Can you imagine what they feel when the president of the country says that his government is not involved in abducting people? Can you imagine what these people feel? Can you imagine what must be going through their minds? The sheer mental torture when we all know that some of these abducted people, abducted by the state, have ended up being found, not alive, in rivers and all kinds of places. Can you imagine the mental torture people are going through? I find it super fascinating that the Inspector General of Police is terrified of obeying a court order, because I believe that is what it is. Why would he be terrified? Because he has no information. Trust me, he doesn't know. Okay? However, the buck stops with him. So this is a situation where there's some powerful people playing mischief and doing things for which at the end of the day the Inspector General of Police has to face the consequences. The buck stops with him. And yet that person where the buck stops has no idea. No idea at all. You see, what is happening here is that it is very clear that this unit which is involved in the abductions of people, the same unit involved in mischief during demonstrations and protests, these people don't report to the Inspector General of Police. They don't! They report somewhere else. Okay? Now, let me give you a story from the past. We used to have a dictator, a ruthless, brutal dictator, ruling neighboring Uganda, whose name was Idi Amin Dada. Now, President Amin used to have a unit of Subaru boys, they used to use Land Rovers in those days, who were called the State Research Bureau. The State Research Bureau. I like that name. This is a state organ which does research, and it is also a bureau. I believe the whole idea here was to make the unit sound very intellectual, because President Amin himself did not go to school much. That is the truth. Now, the State Research Bureau used to do exactly what the Subaru boys do these days. They were ruthless, and they were above the law. They did not report to the police boss. They reported to their bosses at State House and Tebe. Okay? And if one got involved in serious crimes, like murdering your girlfriend, I'm sure you've seen the news, etc., etc., the State Research Bureau of Idi Amin were not interested in you. They wouldn't bother you. However, if there was something political about you, you said something, or somebody reported you and said so and so does not like the government of Idi Amin Dada, then pop, the State Research Bureau were at your door. And those boys were ruthless. Very similar to our Subaru boys. In fact, I don't see many differences. And so this has definitely happened before. This is nothing new. There is nothing new under the sun, the good book tells us. And the way things ended for the State Research Bureau in Uganda was not good. Because you see, people who are affected by crimes like this do not forget. And tomorrow, because nobody lives on this earth forever, tomorrow there will be another regime in power. And tomorrow, people are going to demand justice. Okay? Now, one of the other tricks that were used by the State Research Bureau, now, you need to be careful about this information I'm about to give you. It is highly sensitive. Just read between the lines. Utashika. One of the things about the State Research Bureau is the fact that they were using some foreigners, people who were not Ugandans. Okay? Now, of course, the assumption there is that tomorrow, if there is a change of regime, those foreigners within you who are doing most of the very brutal work will simply leave the country. And it is not so easy to prosecute a foreigner who is in their foreign country. Okay? That is what used to happen with the State Research Bureau. Okay? And therefore the locals who are working with these foreigners, they suffered. Okay? Now, what is happening in Kenya currently reminds us, those of us who were around then, during the Idi Amin years, and the work of the State Research Bureau. Some of us were still in school, but we could read, and we could read the newspapers, and we could understand what was going on. Yeah. Those of us who are aware of this, the current Subaru boys, remind us very, very much of the dictatorial, brutal regime of Idi Amin Dada and the State Research Bureau. Maybe this one of ours, we need to rename it the Subaru State Research Bureau. Don't you think that name suits? What? And now the spiritual. You know, there are some things you should never touch. Even if you know nothing about the spiritual, you should never ever think of going there. You know, for some reason I'm yet to understand, the Luo community are very much aware of this one I'm going to talk about. Okay? That thing you must never do, you must never go near, is to spill blood, especially innocent blood. Hiyo kitu haina dawa. And you see, it is not only you who is going to be affected, but your ancestors down the line. Many, many generations to come will be affected by one ancestor who spilled innocent blood. Now, what is happening currently with this situation we have of abductions, which have never stopped, they're still ongoing, is that blood has been spilled. A lot of it. And trust me when I tell you, of all the things you can do under the sun, you cannot mwaga damu and fail to face some consequences. Not only you, your children, your children's children, your children's children's children, etc., etc. Okay? And there's something else. Just do a careful study of every regime that was powerful in this world, and then sank very quickly in an attempt to remain in power. They sank very quickly into spilling innocent blood. How long did they last after they went down that road? Just do your own research. I don't want to tell you things which you'll say it is from the head of Chris Kumekucha. He cooked it. No, just do your own research. Find out how long they lasted in power. You can even start with the neighboring Idi Amin Dada. When the bloodletting went overboard, the regime did not last. You can even go back in history. Adolf Hitler. When things got out of hand with the Jews, Hitler's very strong, mighty, unbeatable army suddenly started tasting defeat, and the end came quickly, very quickly. And so we need to ask, will the Ruto regime survive with abductions? Are these abductions going to help Ruto remain in power, or are they going to speed up his exit from the presidency? I leave you to answer that question for yourself. I will not answer it for you. You answer it for yourself. Okay? Now, very quickly before I go, when the kipindi cha Lala Salama over my latest offer of a very sensitive video, which is linked to Raila Odinga, indeed linked to recent events we have seen unfold in the country. Yeah? And it explains a lot. And as I said in an earlier video, some of this information, when I dug it out, when I came face to face with it, I was shocked. And it takes a lot to shock me. So I believe you can see the details on your screens right now, repeated in the description area below this video on YouTube, and also in the comments area. If you're in a position to, kindly take action immediately, as quickly as possible, to avoid disappointment. Of course, in the same package, I've thrown in some other sensitive videos, which I'm sure you're going to find super fascinating. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.